Good morning.
Good morning.
Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm just projecting.
There were a whole bunch of them.
Good morning.
Good
morning.
Okay, much better. This is meeting number 197.
Yes, sir.
197 of PMG, the MAC Group. My name is Bill Herrick. I am one of the founders of the organization, and I'm the current president of the organization. I didn't get up quick enough. The gentleman who's doing the Quasimodo imitation over there is Tom Kurtner. He's our membership chair.
Get back.
The gentleman. It was Igor. That wasn't Quasimodo. That was Igor. The gentleman with the camera, taking videos so the FBI will have some evidence when they haul us all into court, is Mark Jorgens. He is our Apple ambassador. So he's our official liaison with Apple Computer. Let's see, who else do we have that's notable? Don Waldick is not in the audience today. We have Kathy Toller with us today. She is our treasurer. And
Where's
I
Don?
would say she's the best treasurer we've had, bar none. 20 years of operation, the best we've had. I was treasurer, Mark Cobb was treasurer, Art Aronson was treasurer, and Bob Bernstein was treasurer. You're the best.
Trying to get money out of me from you.
Okay. So I ask you just say thank you because they helped me run this show. All right. We're going to have a few little changes at the meeting today. Don, oh, I forgot Don. My apologies, Don. Don usually does, he likes to stay in the background and just help, which is always appreciated. Don Bennett will be handling the novice group today because grown, I'm going to be doing the main presentation. And the main presentation is going to be on troubleshooting printers. And I know you're not going to like this, but I'm also going to teach you a little bit about the software technology that runs the printers on the Mac, and it's called CUPS, Common Unix Printing System. And when I show you a little bit, you're going to go, oh my, so complicated. And it is. Let's see. And I think that's what we've got pretty much set up for the meeting today. So with that said, I'm going to say, Mr. Kirkner, do we have any guests today? No guests. And we have just, is this a family membership, Mr. Kirkner?
Yes, sir.
Family membership. We have new members with us today. They came last month. They saw what we did and they joined anyway. So they're truly brave people, and that's Marvin and Annie. If you just stand up and just say hi.
Morning.
Oh. They actually are very brave people because they're not just switching to the Mac. They're still doing their PC stuff. So on a daily basis, Marv is fighting those PCs where he's an ophthalmologist, optometrist, excuse me. And so sometimes to run a business, you got to take a couple hits. What can I say? All right, let's start out with news. Have there been any new items that people would like to inform the other members about? Okay, then I'm just going to go ahead and say there's been a whole bunch of updates coming out from Apple. If you've got the aluminum keyboards, the ones that have got the Bluetooth in, there's an update on that. There's been a series of security updates. And then there was this tentative product announcement that Steve Jobs made for this product called the iPad. And of course, as soon as my wife saw the keynote, she said, that sounds like a feminine product. And I said, yeah, okay. And then a couple days later, she was on one of the technology news sites, and they were talking about how there's going to be an iPad, and then there'll be another one released a couple months later that's going to have more features, and the writer for PC World was calling it the Maxi Pad. So when people want to talk to me about it, I call it the tablet, I call it the iTab. Until they actually have some out in the wild, and we actually get some people to tell us how they're going to be used. I can't really tell you much about it, but we have got a commitment from both of the local Apple dealers and the Apple Solutions consultant at Best Buy, that once they are available for sale, that one of them will present it to the group and show you what that's all about. Okay, anything else anybody can think of in terms of news? We still have people that do PCs, right? Last update, Windows XP. Some people got a bad result. You know, they did the security update and then they got a continuous reboot to the blue screen. Of course, everybody immediately blamed Microsoft. It's actually a case of the new antivirus security update is trying to remove a rootkit that these people had on their computers. So it was malware that was already on their computers. And so this is how Microsoft makes sure that they don't use a machine that's infected. It just goes to the blue screen continuously and then reverts. Anybody else? Any other items? Any other products? Anything they've seen? Yes, Kathy, you got something you want to?
I got my new desktop,
Okay,
that you know about.
okay. I have a new iMac user back there and they go, the screens keep getting bigger. Kathy, I hate to tell you, because yours is a 24 inch, okay, they've come out with a bigger one.
Oh my God, that's a big one.
Because I know somebody who just got a 27-inch iMac, and when they got it home, it didn't fit in the hutch. And the spouse, was actually the husband, would not let them replace the large screen TV with it. So they returned it and got the smaller 21-inch iMac, which is the new one.
Is there any truth to on the 27 inches, Apple supposedly is giving rebates back to some of the people that were having
They've been
problems
doing
with that?
primarily in the European Union,
Yeah.
not in the U.S. There have been some quality issues with the screen. At first, they thought it might be manufacturing problems because they're using a new contractor for some of the components. I believe they've now decided that it's shipping, that during shipping things are getting discombobulated, so they're redoing the packaging a little bit and tightening up some of the connectors.
Wasn't there a problem with the color? There was a gradient, like a yellow cast on the color of the screen.
It was
And,
all due to the backlight
yeah.
lamps getting misplaced and not shining on the appropriate, what do you call the,
Backplane?
yeah, backlight. Yeah, but there's a reflector that it reflects across to get a consistent light. I know what they call it in, you know, the old theater days, the limelights, you know, they called them just plain old limelight reflectors. Okay. Yes, go ahead.
There's a Skype update out, which Mark keyed me to the other night, even though Friday or Thursday night, Skype itself, when you say check for updates, wasn't
Yeah.
saying it there. It looks like they've added spell checking as the operational feature. I haven't noticed that before. I don't know.
Okay. And for those of you who don't know what Skype is a program that allows you to do instant messaging and do telephone calls over the internet and do video conferencing over the internet. It's not from Apple, it's from the folks that originally did the peer-to-peer program Kazaa, and it's currently, Skype's still owned by eBay. I think it's still owned by eBay. I don't think they spun it off yet.
I think that was in the works.
Yeah, but I don't think they've finalized it. Those mergers and separations take a while.
Yeah.
Okay, so new update for Skype. For those of you who do run other operating systems on your Mac and you're using a product from Sun Computer, soon to be Oracle Computer, called VirtualBox, there's a new update on VirtualBox also. And when you go to the update, show me if there's updates for VirtualBox, it doesn't show you the new update either. So, you know, programmers are human. Well, most of them are. Okay, any other news items? Okay. Then I'm going to say, does anybody have anything that they're looking to purchase or used equipment they're trying to sell? And Mark George's, you can tell them about the stuff you got
Yeah,
in your freezer.
everything that's on that table over there where the box is, it says free is free. I don't want to take it home, so yeah, right there where Tom's standing. So help yourself. It's just a bunch of older stuff. You might be able to use it.
Video cards over there, there's
Yeah.
USB cards, there's a, if you got an older beige Mac, you know, System 8, System 9 Mac, there's a G3 upgrade card over there, a whole bunch of cables, a whole bunch of stuff. Okay. Anyway, he doesn't want to take it home, so take a look at the break. Anybody else have anything they're selling, or, yes?
Next month or this coming month, I'll probably have a G4 iMac that I'll be getting rid of. It's not ready to go yet, but probably by next
And
month.
that's the one where it's got the LCD screen on
Yeah,
the,
it kind of rotates and
okay.
half
And
a
what's
basketball.
the,
The lampshade.
yeah, but when you get it, send one of us an email, and that way we can spread the word on that. Anybody else? Yes, Rich?
I've got a G3 333 System 8.6 iMac that is for free if anyone wants
Okay.
it.
What color?
Blue.
Blue, okay.
And
That's blueberry.
It's blueberry, okay, thank you, okay.
I've also got a G4 iPod that's on parts.
Okay.
Because
So it's a fourth
It's a
generation
fourth
iPod.
generation iPod, just it was the same generation as when they went to photo.
Okay, now that's not the one with the buttons off at the
No,
top.
no,
That's the
no.
one where they went back.
Last generation had real firewire, but I dropped it the other day.
What's
and
broken on?
The hard drive.
Oh, okay.
Death by concrete.
I could use it, because the front controls on my fourth gen went out.
I'll do it.
Okay, very good. And think about if there's something you want from my basement.
Maybe.
Okay.
I'll get some wires.
Just remember, the club is all about me, not about you. One of the members very graciously offered to help me plug some of my old O-gauge Lionel Railroad stuff. So to get there and do an inventory, I had to go through some other stuff. And I figured while I'm going through this stuff, I might as well count it up. 126 computers. So, now, not all are working in working order. There's about 15 of them that I pull parts off. And I've decided that that's too many, and I'm gonna cut back to maybe 64. So I'm just giving you due notice. If you show up at my house, you may get a door prize.
Sitting at 53 door stop.
Oh, no. Apple IIs, you know, $400 floppy disk drive, single section, okay, with the original ribbon cables, and they were. All right. Anybody else with something they're trying to sell or that they're looking to purchase? Yes, Kathy?
Speaking of iPod, I'd like to get one, but I don't know where and what's a good price.
Okay, iPods?
I don't know whether I wanna get a Nano or
Okay.
what, I'm not that familiar with them.
What I would recommend you do is either go over to the Apple Store in Cincinnati, or the Best Buy, or the MacTown stores, the one behind Dayton Mall, or one up Green, or Mac Depot, and have a salesman do the sales pitch on it.
Okay.
But basically, they come in a couple flavors. You got the one that looks like teeny tiny. I mean, they keep making them smaller. That's the Shuffle. Okay, that's probably not you.
Well, you were saying something about generation. What are you talking about, generation?
They've been making iPods long enough, and they've been improving them. See, one of the things that Steve Jobs does is he doesn't wait for the competition to obsolete his stuff. He obsoletes it himself. So every time when they come out with the iPod killer or the iPhone killer, he's already, 2 more miles down the road. All right, so when Rich said G4, he meant 4G, fourth generation. So this is the fourth iteration of that particular iPod.
How
Okay.
many generations are there now?
I think we're on generation 5, if you're talking about the standard iPods, which would be the Nano and the Classic. But, you know, the iPhone could be considered to be an iPod because it does have the functionality of an iPod for playing music and doing that sort of stuff. And then there's the iPod Touch. So I would really say there's 8 generations. And then you have the iPad coming out. I'm going to call it the iTab. So if I say iTab, just replacing your head is the word iPad for iTab.
But it's not that confusing, I don't think. I mean, look, you probably want to look at a newer, or you want to buy used.
I don't care, I just,
If you want to buy a newer one, it's
Yeah.
pretty simple. I mean, depending on what you want to do with it. If you want to use it for walking or something like that,
Uh-huh.
you probably want to get a Nano, which is fairly small.
The
If you wanna
man
get a
said
bigger
the
one,
right thing. What do you want to do?
then
Do you want to
that's
listen
the
to
question.
music?
What
Do you
wanna
want to watch
use?
movies?
For your music?
Or do you want to do it all?
Do you want to be able to get your mail on it?
no.
Do you want to play games?
No.
Do you want to watch movies?
Do you want one on iTouch?
But if you just want to watch movies, listen to audiobooks and that, then you could either go with the classic iPod, or you could go with the Nano. I think you get more value with the Nano. Plus it comes in colors.
Nano's nice and small, it's easy to use. You can take it anywhere.
You can watch movies on it.
All right.
So,
But that screen is so tiny to watch movies.
yes,
I
yes.
think I'd rather at least have a classic because I'm going to
See,
watch movies.
it's not meant for the ladies to watch movies on. It's for the guys. When we're with you at Elder Beerman or Macy's, and you're doing and we're stuck there and we're told to stay, it's for that.
But you can do that on the iTouch, even better.
Yes, you can.
You can't do it secretly like the Nano.
That's true, yes.
You know, you can go down there.
So anyway,
Okay, I can,
yeah, I mean, we can discuss outside the meeting.
There's probably only 2 or 3 have.
Some of us,
It's just,
some of us have iPads with us today.
right.
Show them.
Oh,
Yeah.
Kathy?
I got
Kathy,
a Nano right here. if you
At the
wanna
break,
look
just
at
say, does anybody have an iPod with them, and let them talk to you for the 15 minutes that we do break. Okay, anybody else? We're finished with sale, wanted, remember we've got all that old stuff? Next thing would be help desk. Anybody had problems this month? Okay, we're gonna start at the front this month.
iBook crashed and I had to reload it. And I think it just, she's up against the maximum. How much memory should we keep in reserve to keep it from getting to the point where
Okay,
it's gonna crash?
are we talking about RAM or hard drive space? Because people vote for memory.
Well, I think.
Did
it's
she fill up her hard drive?
I think
Okay. Because it's a Unix operating system, typically you want to keep somewhere between 20 and 14% free on the hard drive. If you're a graphic design, creative type person, and you're using Adobe products, you want to keep at least 20%. Rule of thumb, at least 10 gigabytes free on the hard drive.
There's no way to set it so it'll warn you before it gets.
Not using not with a normal, not from the Mac operating system. You can go into terminal and command line, and you can tell the Unix kernel to do various things to give you warnings when it starts to fill up, in the same way you can on a Windows, Microsoft Windows operating system, where you can say what the quota structure is, the quota system. Yes.
The latest version of Tech Tool Pro has that feature in it. You can set it up to, you can set it at whatever percentage of hard drive space.
I'm
It's
going to
available.
just do a minor correction. It isn't the Tech Tool program, it's the control panel thing that it installs.
Yeah, right. But that's in, it comes with
Because
it.
it whines at me every day.
Right. But you can change it to whatever percentage you want to give you warning.
The other thing is periodically you want to empty your browser caches and that and clean out. If you use the Apple Mail program, you might want to rebuild your mail account, because that'll clean out some of the old stuff that got downloaded from emails from years and years ago.
Make sure your mail trash is deleted too, because that can build up with some people.
Yeah.
They just throw stuff in the trash in the mail program and it just sits there forever.
And I'm glad you said trash. And the other thing is, the iPhoto program has its own trash. Right, it's not the trash can in the dock, it has its own trash, and I can't tell you how many times somebody's been using iPhoto for a couple of years, and they're putting stuff in the trash, and they thought when they emptied their trash, it emptied it from the iPhoto database. No, you have to actually empty it inside iPhoto. Yeah,
That may be my problem.
that may be, it's something just to look at. I don't think that's a problem, so just a situation.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Now, let's go.
This is a dumb situation, maybe it's stupid, I don't know, but I was working in application.
Okay, I got to correct you again. We have no stupid members. We have ignorant members. We have misguided members. We have no stupid members. And I'm including the retired engineers.
It was late at night, I was working around an application, and somehow I dumped my text at somewhere.
Okay.
So I go to the dock, I pull it up
Mm-hmm.
to see where it is. It says it's in the trash, you want to use it for the trash.
Right.
I go to the trash and I can't find it. So I don't know where it went.
Okay.
It's not in application, it's not in trash. And of course, now it's out the top of it.
Okay. The easiest way to do you have Time Machine?
Yes.
Okay. Go to Time Machine. Go to your applications folder and then turn on Time Machine and then go back in time until you see text edit in your applications folder. Select it and click the restore button and it will put text edit back in your applications folder. That's the easiest way to do it. Okay, but from what you're saying, now remember, I'm doing this at a distance, so it's like astral projection. People think computers are science. It's not. They just make this stuff up. But it sounds to me like somehow you not only got text edited into the trash, but somehow the visibility bit on it got clipped, so it's no longer visible. Yeah, and it's kind of hard to find invisible things. So I would just do that restore, and then I do a secure delete on the trash to make sure it really cleans out the previous one. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Let's see, and then Don was being very,
Just one on subject, I've heard that Apple is working on bringing back paint, all as feature. I've hated Adobe ever since they took over PageMaker.
okay. I hear what you're saying, but in my house, Mac Paint, Mac Draw, AppleWorks, HyperCard never left. They're still on the computers on the basement. In fact, the Apple II stuff's still down there working. So, I haven't heard anything about that. Where, do you know where you sort of heard it?
It was on the internet somewhere.
Okay, on the internet somewhere.
That was a relatively decent size, but.
Okay, well, I'll go rattle some cages. We can bother Brad Bodie and see if he's heard anything. He'll say no, but we'll waterboard him. Okay. We had somebody over here that had a problem this month? No. Who did I miss? Who else? Yes, fine.
Mine is about email. All of a sudden, a lot of my emails that I normally would receive from people are going in spam, just out of the blue.
Okay, now, is this, what email service are you using? Is it AOL? Is it, who does your email?
Good question.
If I said, okay, Bonnie, what's your email address?
Yahoo.com.
Yahoo.com. Okay, what you want to do is use your web browser to go to Yahoo and log in as you, and then look in the folder that says spam and select the things that aren't spam, and then you push the button that says not spam. Remove it from the spam folder, it'll add that person to your address book, and it'll put it back where you normally would get it.
Oh, okay.
So usually it's,
Yahoo some
yeah.
too, and I think they changed something, because I used to get a lot of email messages that would end up in spam, and now they're not coming through at all. I don't know what, they're going to never, they're not coming. And that's something that's happened in the last week and a half or so.
One's good about last month, yeah, month and a half. So they
And
email
I
that
didn't
you
do it
wanted.
on the phone. No, it was spam, but,
Oh, okay.
I used to always end up, when I would check it, there'd be
they had to because Google bought the company that they were using for their mail filter.
So that combination has maybe done something with their spam filter. I don't know.
Okay. But on the other side, if you've got stuff coming into the regular inbox and it is spam, you want to select it and then click on the button that says this is spam, so it'll move it to your spam filter, excuse me, spam folder, and also add it to your spam filter so you don't get that in your inbox anymore. Okay. Because I can't tell you how many times I've seen people where they're spending, 2-3 hours going through their email and it's like all this junk coming in, and I tell them, oh, just tell it no, and then it'll start to pare it down for you, so you don't have to do that. Your time's valuable. You don't want to be using it for.
Bill, did you see where Microsoft announced the Mac version of Office 11? And they're going to include Outlook now, and they're going to dump Entourage.
That's correct, which is good, because Entourage and I have never gotten along. I mean, it's put a little money in my pocket, but I've never gotten along with that program.
And they're bringing Visual Basic back.
Good. That's always good, because that way you get all that malware,
Yeah.
all those executables, those spreadsheets that suddenly, take your address book and mail it somewhere to the Ukraine.
Document, it's a basic program.
Okay, let's go to Jim Fortuna and then we'll go to the other.
I don't know if this is necessarily a problem, but more so an observation in regard to email, that my neighbor uses Incredimail on her Windows machine, and she'll send me emails with like colored backdrops, maybe frogs and monkeys and trees or whatever, and they're GIF animations. And I have a 10.411 machine on which I read mail. The animations are all doing their thing. And then I have a 1062 machine, and there's no animation at all from the GIFs.
And you've got it set to do the HTML mail and all the full.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, you might
Is there
want
a
to
way
check your setting, because mail in Snow Leopard has got a different set of defaults. That's the Apple mail program.
Right.
Snow Leopard has a different set of defaults than what the incredibly broken mail program that Apple had in
So
Tiger.
within preferences viewing maybe, or?
Yeah. It might be in security too. Okay, we're gonna do one more.
Keyboard keeps locking up.
Okay.
If I can plug an external keyboard in, it'll work, but the keyboard in the laptop itself locks up from time to time anyway to get
That
it.
usually is a cabling issue.
It's within the laptop.
Yeah, but you gotta get the keyboard replacement and replace the cable that connects it to the motherboard. Because, and the reason I say that is because your external is working just fine. So the external's coming in through the USB port and then going to, and your internal's also going to a USB
Usually
port.
only happens when I'm in Microsoft Office.
Oh, okay. So you're saying
There
the
lies
keyboard
the
locks
rub.
up.
The keyboard locks up, the mouse won't move, none of the keys do anything.
That's a feature of Microsoft.
What version of Office?
2004.
Have you done all the
Let me do
updates?
some research on that one, because there's all sorts of, okay, send me an I was gonna say send me an email. Send the club address an email, because my internet's been up and down 7 days now. Landlines and internet. It's there, it's not. It's there, it's not. With what version of Office, okay, what operating system you're running, and then do you have other add-ons like Growl or Hadium or Flip for Mac, that sort of stuff? Okay, and I'm just going to throw this out as a possibility. Use your font book application to verify your font load. Because Microsoft products, if you get a
Bad
font
font.
that isn't quite all that it should be, Microsoft Office products will just wig out on you, even on a PC. I should say most PCs don't understand how fonts work. Okay, I'm going to say we're finished there. Let's see, what have I missed, Van? We have no employment thing, raffle? Oh. We've been spending your money. We've been spending your money. The club bought its first computer. All the other computers the club has had in the past were donated by members, myself and Mark Cobb usually. And we bought a brand new MacBook Pro. I'm not going to pick it up because I'll drop it and then everybody will hate me. MacBook Pro, and it's so that when people say, well, I'd love to present for the club, but I don't have a laptop, no more excuses, we got a presentation machine. So, and then, let's see, just to do a seg into the raffle, Mark Georges made contact with the folks at Tidbits, and these are the same folks that have the Take Control books, ebooks that we've featured in the past. They're now one of our vendors, and we have some Take Control ebooks that are on our raffle, and Mark Georges popped down to Micro Center in Cincinnati and bought some 2 gig flash drives, so it's on a flash drive, so it's a double prize. Okay, so with that said, I'm going to say let's get started on the raffle, and we'll have a short break, and then we'll reconvene here for troubleshooting printers and finding out more than you ever wanted to know about cups. And Don Bennett will be handling the novice one, and he'll pick some topic that'll be of interest, I'm sure. Okay. I thought it was the only one I've seen where it has its own crash. I've seen programs like FileMaker where whenever you make a change, it immediately does the change. Or some of the higher level commercial databases where you can do rollbacks of transactions. So like a lot of anybody that's running an online store, or somebody has done a credit card transaction, the machine went down while they were in the middle of doing it. This thing can go, oh, the transaction never completed, and then it rolls back. That was the last 15 minutes that the database was running. As it used to be. Okay.
So I might still, if you go to a retail place, I might still have
Come on. Okay, well, ask good questions. Okay, make him work for his money.
What is the topic next week? What is the topic?
I have no clue. GOK. All I know is that Don has a very different approach than I have, and they seem to like both approaches, and they sort of like when we mix it up a little bit. He stretches them a little bit more than I do. That's because I work with really clueless most of the time. Okay, first of all, I'm going to just lower your expectations. I don't have a PowerPoint put together for this presentation. I've had some stuff going on in my life this week. My father-in-law's in the hospital. My wife's down there right now. Just had a hip replacement and some other stuff going on, and it's like, life happens. So, I do tap dance pretty well, though, so I think you'll still get a good result. The topic is troubleshooting printers in Mac OS X. The first thing I want you to think about is there's 2 major types of printers that people use. Printers that are networked and printers that aren't networked. And the real world definition of that, if it plugs directly into your computer, the printer has a cable that comes from it to your printer, then it's not networked. If it's a printer that plugs into, it's on your network someplace, it's not directly connected to your printer, then it's a network printer. And then we have a subcategory of that, and that is when it's a tethered printer, but it's going through another device. An example would be if you have an airport hub, and it has a USB port on it, and you've got a USB printer plugged into that. It's considered to be a non-network printer, but it's going into a device which is then on the network. Or another one is when you have a tethered printer, and it's connected to your computer, but you're using your computer to share it over the network. I can't tell you how many times I've seen people got printer sharing turned on, and it's like, no, you don't want to do that. You don't want to be sharing those local printers, usually. The next thing that I want to make sure that you understand is that while we do have, sometimes we encounter problems with our printers, in terms of the other operating systems that are out there, the Mac OS X operating system supports more printers with more variety than any other operating system that's out there. And that's because it's Unix. It's a Unix operating system. All right. Now, the next thing is, I'm going to talk just for a little bit about CUPS, Common Unix Printing System. And I'm going to sit down and show you that. With your Mac, you fire up your Finder, you double click on the hard drive, you're looking at folders, and you go, wow, this is where everything is. Well, no, not really. There's all this other stuff that's hidden away from your view. All of the Unix stuff. It's on your hard drive, but they're set to be invisible in the graphic user environment. So, first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to, let's just go to a regular Apple page to start with. I'm in a web browser, okay? I'm using Safari, and I'm going to put an address in. And that address is going to be 127, and of course it starts filling it in for me, dot 0, 0.1, colon, 631. 127.0.0.1, that's your home computer. So I'm using a web browser to talk to my own computer because my computer is also, and your computer is also web server. So when I do that, it takes me to the website that's running on my computer that tells me about CUPS, Common Unix Printing System. Yes, Rich?
You can also type localhost.
Yes. But that's not as impressive as typing in 4 sets of numbers with periods in between. They really, yeah. I mean, it's like, you type in www.google.com for an audience, and they just go, oh, okay. But if you type in the actual IP address for Google, and then it does the redirect, and it still takes you to Google, then they're impressed.
I'm sorry.
Especially, no, it's okay.
But it's
So
always
this
good
is
to-
taking me to a help page on a web page that's on my computer, and this is where we can find out about CUPS, and it's Common Unix Printing System. And if you start going into CUPS, you'll find that there's quite a bit of stuff there. I could quite easily do a full week of lectures on CUPS and how it handles things. And I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is hit my back button, and I'm going to go click on one of these other tabs here, like Administration. Okay, if I wanted to set this particular computer up as a print server, I could do it from CUPS. If I wanted to install printers, I could do it from CUPS. If I want to set up classes of printers, where you've got, let's say you've got 5 laser writers sitting there. We could set them up so that they're considered to be the same printer, and when you go to print a job, it'll just look for whichever one's not busy at that point and throw it out. Sort of like having a steno tool, only with hardware. Classes, online help, jobs. Now, with jobs, okay, we're not talking about Steve Jobs here. We're talking about printer jobs. So, at my former employer, when they would find that certain individual had inappropriate graphics on their computer, one of the things they would have me do, if it was a Mac, is go into CUPS and look at all the print jobs that they had had. And so this stuff is kept. So you can see here's a print job. It was sent to this printer. It's done. It was sent by Bill, and at that time I was logged in as TMG presenter. And it's been held there since Saturday, February 13th, 06, 20, everything's timestamped. If we had brought in one of my desktop machines that's been running, a long time, I've had it for a long time, you'd probably see 50, 60, 70 print jobs in there. There have been times when I've gone to look at somebody's cups queue because they were having printing problems. I wanted to see what this was all about, where they've had all of their print jobs going back to 2007, 2008. You know, and they did a lot of printing. Okay. So the thing to take away from this is that in the background, behind the curtain, you've got cups doing all this stuff. And if you are in an enterprise environment, this is a very, very powerful tool to be able to use. For example, if I was at a university and they installed a brand new printer that nobody else has ever used before, in the old days, we'd have to go to every machine that was a Mac and put in the print drivers and configure it for that printer. In the PC world, we would either set up the individual machines or we'd set it up so that there was a print queue that was broadcast from a print server to that printer, that physical device. With cups, I can SSH into a box and just shoot out, these are all the printers you're allowed to use, and these are the printer drivers, and these are the names, and these are the locations. You know, I'm using Apple Remote Desktop, and I'd be setting up 300 computers at a time. Get a new printer, no big deal, boom, 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 shoot that out. Now I've got 300 Macs that are all configured for that printer. That's because of cups.
What was that number again?
127.0.0.1, okay, and then the colon, 631, and then a slash. Actually, just 631 will get you that.
Can you just type the word local host that he
Yeah.
mentioned up there instead of any other? But I mean, all you have to do is type in the URL of local host. and then
Local
same
host
thing will
colon
pop.
631.
Yeah. Now here, I clicked on the printer tab, and we're seeing that these are the printers that are installed, the printer queues that are installed on this particular computer. And again, you can do diagnosis, and you can SSH into the box and see what's going on remotely to figure out what's going on. So anyway, I just wanted you to see what's behind the curtain. Now, let me sort of throw that down like that. Would you like to see where all the cup stuff actually is on your computer? Because we were using a web browser to go to it. I'll show you where the actual directory is. If you want to, yeah, question.
On the cup stuff we were just looking at, that shows when documents and file size and all of that. None of that data though is associated with that anymore. You can't go back into that and reprint what's already there.
Depends on how they had the, which version of the operating system they've got. In most cases, yeah, I can rerun the job. That can be a big
You know
security
you printed
breach.
something out, for
Yeah.
example, 6 months ago, but
Mhm.
you can't find the document. You could actually go back in, find it, and reprint.
Now, it's not going to be the actual document. Hmm?
If that's keeping printout, screen, that's running out.
Right. The cups queues get cleaned out on a much more regular basis in Snow Leopard and Leopard than they did in Puma, Cheetah, Jaguar, whatever it was. No, whatever. Panther and Tiger. Okay. Now, let's say I wanted to actually look at the directory where Cups lives. I'd want to be in Finder, and I would go to the Go menu, and I would say Go to Folder, and I've already got it in there, /etc/Etsy. Okay, so now, in a Finder window, I'm looking at the contents of the /Etsy folder. Oh, we've got little stuff like we've got Apache. Oh, Apache, that's a web server. That's where Apache resides. And we see all these other different things here, but right here, that's where Cubs is. We open it up, you'll notice that there's some things that I do not have access to. cupsconf default. Those are the text files that define what printers the computer understands and how it's supposed to communicate with the printers. Printer config, and this is printer config 0 is a backup of that. SMTP config. Here are your the printers that are actually installed on this. And then you have the interface files. In this case, everything doesn't require a special interface. Okay, so again, there's all this stuff you never have to deal with. The joke was that it was easier to make Unix user-friendly than it was to fix Windows. Okay. Printer problems. Typically, you're going to be doing your printer setup not from cups, but you're going to be doing it from your system preferences. This bad boy right there, print and fax. Notice we got green lights on these. Now, if I try and print to those printers, what's going to happen? It's not going to work because I'm not on the same network where those printers work. So the green light doesn't mean that, yes, the printer is ready to go. What it means is that the printer queue is in good shape. So the concept I want you to take away is when you're working with printer troubleshooting, think of it as a plumbing problem. Clogged drains. So the print job has got to go through this process, this series of pipes, and sometimes it doesn't make it out. Okay. The other one is, of course, just put off to the side, Microsoft document printing problems. That's another whole version of Beast, where it makes it all the way through the pipe, everything works fine, and it comes out in the printer and you got a blank page. So we'll just defer troubleshooting Microsoft Word documents to another day. All right. Now, the number one complaint that I've heard the last 60 days is folks that have upgraded to Snow Leopard. They were at Tiger or Leopard, and they had legacy printers, that means old as the hill printers, stuff that was made last century, that only really understood, that were set up to use Apple Talk to talk to them. This is where we get into the whole concept of discovery. When you're on a network, your computer somehow has to be able to figure out what else is out there. Apple Talk is a legacy protocol, discovery protocol, as from Apple, as NetBEUI is a legacy discovery protocol from Microsoft. What it basically would be like is Apple Talk on a printer is like a lighthouse. The printer would periodically send this little pulse out through the network saying, "Hi, I'm here. My name is. I'm not busy," or "I am busy. Do you have a job for me?" So that would then be received by the computer, and then when you go to send a print job to it, they would then start talking to each other. There'd be some negotiation that was going on. Now, Apple Talk is a very chatty protocol, and it can fill up your network rather quickly. And again, think of the concept of like the New Jersey Turnpike. If you've got these people that are just constantly driving on the turnpike, but they're not really going anywhere, it's going to make it tough for the commuters to get through. Well, that's how Apple Talk and NetBEUI are. They're constantly driving on the turnpike, but they don't really do anything. They're just saying, "Hi, I'm here." And then, a couple nanoseconds, "Hi, I'm still here." And the printer goes, "Hi, LaserWriter NT, I'm still here. Oh, and NTX, LaserWriter NTX is still here too, and they're over there." So there's a more efficient way of doing this, and it's called IP, Internet Protocol, using the Internet protocols for discovery services and to have the devices communicate with each other. Now, when Snow Leopard came out, they dropped all support for Apple Talk. So if you had an Apple Talk printer that's going, "Hi, I'm here," and you've got a Mac OS X computer running Snow Leopard, it's like The Apple Talk printer has got a dog whistle, and the OSX Snow Leopard box is not a dog. It can't hear it. The whistle's there, but it can't hear it. You'll also see this happen if you're using a router prior to, I'm trying to remember when Apple Express routers, Apple Express and Apple Extreme still support Apple Talk, sort of. In other words, they'll pass the Apple Talk signals through, but other ones like Netgear, Linksys, some of the Buffalo routers, most of the Cisco routers, they just don't pass the Apple Talk along anymore. You know, it comes in and they just go, up, bit bucket, throw it away. Nobody needs to hear Apple Talk. So, the problem you have is you got a printer that was configured with Apple Talk, you've got a computer that doesn't listen to Apple Talk anymore. How do you get those two devices to work? And that's what we're going to do right now. So, if you're going to configure it, you're going to create a new printer queue. Right here, you got a plus and a minus. So if I've got something selected and I click on the minus, it's going to throw it away. I'm going to click plus because we want to create one. This is how you add a printer. You can either use the default protocols. So what am I saying here? I click on default, and over the network, Cups is saying there's an Epson Stylus NX300 at William Howe's MacBook. There's another one at Bill Howe. He's got a lot of printers there. And notice it says they're Bonjour shared. Okay, Bonjour is a marketing term. The real word for that is ZeroConf, C-O-N-F. And I'll show you more about that in a little bit. So, we want to create a printer queue, and let's say it's for a legacy device. Well, it's not going to be a fax machine, so we don't want to do that. But if I want to, notice we got Bluetooth, so I can be configuring via Bluetooth sending faxes through my cell phone. We want to be doing internet protocol. Okay, now Ron.
I have a question about the protocol. Line printer daemon. Yep. What does that mean?
Okay.
And there are
Default,
other choices.
fax, IP, and Windows. Okay. Windows, typically you're using it if it's a legacy NetBEUI discovery service, or there is a Windows print server that's out there. Okay. Was that where you want, or are we talking about in here?
Click on the
Okay.
protocol arrow over there. There are some other choices.
Yes.
Why should we use?
Okay. What you do, real world, okay, because you have variations in printers, first you start and you try configuring the device using Internet Printing Protocol, and you see if that works. And if it doesn't, then you try LPD, and if that doesn't work, then you try HP JetDirect. JetDirect is a box that is a separate peripheral. It's separate from the printer. It's connecting to the printer typically through a Parallels interface, and then the JetDirect box has an Ethernet or a BNC connector on it.
When you say use the internet printing protocol first, will it automatically go out and see if it can find something? I mean, will something pop
No.
up?
What you need to do is,
The IP
tell
address.
it, yeah. And is it okay if I use the printout you sent me tomorrow? Let me just close that out for a second here. Decker, whether he wants me to use it or not. I will. Okay. This is a sheet that's been printed out from a legacy HP printer. Let's see, is this the right one I wanted? Yeah, this is the one I wanted. Okay. So, you've got in this case it's a laser writer, legacy printer. You're playing with your menu buttons and you're getting it to print out the configuration menu. And down in here, you've got an MIO, that's a network card that's installed into that printer. And it's telling us some information about it. What's important is, over here, it's got what is the IP address for that printer on that network. It may not be the correct configuration it should have, but it's what's in the printer. In this case, its address is 192.168.1.6. Down here, we have the address for the DHCP server, Dynamic Host Control Program Server, and that one is 192.168.1.1. That would be your router. Typically, your router, your wireless access point router, that is your DHCP server on most small home office settings. Okay, so this is the number you want to look for, okay, and you'll write it down. Say, IP address. Vivian, you don't have any network printers, so you don't have to worry about this. Okay, you've got, everything you've got is direct connect.
Does that say DCP, Bill, to write down?
DHCP.
What?
DHCP, Dynamic Host Control Program. Yeah, protocol.
Means the router assigned the address to the.
Right. Typically, you don't want to have your printer getting its number from the router, but that's another whole discussion. That's about how you should be configuring your DHCP server. The thing to keep in mind is typically you want to have your computers have a dynamic address. So they're talking to the router and the router assigns them an IP address. And you want your printers, your scanners, fax modems, I'm trying to think of what else would be out there. You want it to have a static address, an address that is always the same.
If you're using Apple Talk, is it using that same DHCP address?
No.
Through Apple Talk?
Apple Talk is a separate protocol from IP. Apple Talk, it's using things like, hi, I'm Larry's LaserWriter NTX. And okay. With IP, you don't have the chit-chat going on all the time. You're talking, the device has an IP address. When you send the print job, it gets sent to the router goes, oh, it goes over there.
And in a home network, you never really have a need for the DHCP.
If you've got more than one computer and you're sharing an internet access, you do want to have it. Because in that case, when something comes in that, the router will take it and say, oh, that goes to Bill's laptop. Oh, this one goes to Bill's desktop. Oh, this one goes to Bill's guest who's using it. Yes?
So how do you know if you're using Apple Talk or not?
If you look in the setup, when you do you bring up your print queue and you go to printing setup, it'll tell you whether you're using what protocol
So you
you're
go
using.
to where it says printers and fax?
Yeah, let me go back to that control panel. All right, so anyway, so we've got this number here that we want to use, 192.168.1.6. Plus. Okay, so to set it up, first we would start with a protocol. My experience has been with HP printers, they've all got LPD built into them, and that usually works the best. If they're, let's see, I'm trying to remember the Oki Data, some other brands, you want to start with IPP first. So in this case, let's start with IPP anyway.
Bill, a rule of thumb,
Yeah.
the default comes up with the other selection there.
Yeah.
And if you can go with that, that's fine. It doesn't matter. Or should you go to IPP first?
It gets problematic. You want to pick a protocol usually.
But
Because
the key on which one you pick is simply does it work or does it not?
Right. So in other words, I'd start with the first one. Next step is to put in the address of the printer, okay, which I got from my printout. So in this case, it was 192.1. Hello. Dot. Let's see.
186, 168.
Yeah. Let's go to preview. Okay, doesn't matter. Whatever it was.
168.
1.6.1.
168, 11.
168.1.86.
That's pretty standard for those.
Okay. Now at that point, the computer's got an IP address, and it'll start, you'll see a spinning wheel down here, and it'll start looking on the network for it. If it can find it, then it starts to talk to it. So if it's an HP device, an Okadata device, I'm trying to remember some of the Canons, the Kodaks, Epson, network printers. I'm thinking of some of those printers that are the size of a Volkswagen Bug. They're network printers. If it finds it, it will then look to see if it has a print driver for it. And in Snow Leopard, it will also put a little flag on it that after you've configured it, if you do a software update, it'll look to see if Apple's website has got an updated driver for it. So it's come in, it gives a default name for the printer queue. This you usually leave blank. So in here, instead of having that number, I type something in like, Ron's HP LW5, whatever I want. And then if I want to be OCD, obsessive compulsive, I'll put, where it is, front computer. Okay. And then I click the add button. All right, now, then it's going to say, okay, what sort of extra features does this printer have? And I go back to the printout, and it tells me from the printer, it tells me how much memory it's got, how many paper trays it's got, can it do duplex printing or not. Click the appropriate things, and then I would click continue.
Question before you go
Sure.
further on the generic postscript printer that was on the last page.
Yeah.
That,
It couldn't find one, so it says, okay, I'm going to use a generic
but you always just let it set at generic until you go back out and update.
If it's able to talk to the printer over the network, it will come up with a device driver. So if it's an HP printer, like all the HP printers drivers are recognized by Snow Leopard and Leopard, etc. It'll come up with HP LaserWriter 4, HP LaserWriter 4000.
So the driver, at least a driver resides on the printer?
No, the driver resides on your computer.
Okay, well, that's what I'm trying to understand.
Okay.
To do that, you'd have to have the printer on, and you'd have to be able to, whatever network you're on, your computer see the printer.
Correct.
Or it's not gonna
But the
pick
thing
it up.
is, if it has an IP address and the MIO card is working correctly, it's on the network and you will see it.
How did you get the printout again?
That's pushing buttons on the printer itself.
Yeah. This is a network printer. You've got a button that says online, offline. Usually it says go. You press the button, the light goes on, it says online. Press the button, now the light goes off, so you know you're not online. At that point, then you're pressing your menu button, and there's all these different menus. The newer HP and Brother and Canon, Ricoh, all those kind of printers, they've got so many features on them that typically you're going to press the give me a map of the menus first. It'll print out a map of the menus, and then you go, oh, this is where I want to be. Okay. So anyway, you would try this for Internet Printing Protocol. Then you'd come back in and you'd say, okay, let's say you've tried it, you've created that printer queue, you try to do a print job to it, does something come out? If it doesn't, then you try one of the others, line printing or the Jet Direct socket.
You can't see anywhere that it's actually connected to that printer.
The way you find out is by doing a print job. Because remember, even though you're able to print to it, that doesn't mean that it's going to come out correctly. You might get, it might not understand that this is a label printer, and it's trying to print it as if it's got A4 paper in it or 8.5 by 11 paper.
A lot of drivers under the options and supplies has a print test page.
Yeah. Or if you're a geek, you go into Cups and you have it do a print test page, which is a nicer print test, and it's got the same output regardless of the manufacturers. You can compare, you can contrast, and see which printer really has the best resolution.
Explain again when you check to share this printer on the network and when you do not.
Okay. You would click that box if you have a printer that's directly connected to your computer and you want somebody else on your network to be able to print to it.
Like a USB printer.
Yeah.
Someone else cannot get to.
They can't get to it, your computer has to be on, and your computer becomes a print server. One of the reasons I don't like that is because your computer is now doing two things. It's answering all your little requests, and it's also constantly watching for print jobs to come in. And, you get somebody, they've got this double truck print job coming in. It really was supposed to go to a film setter. They somehow managed to send it to your Epson inkjet printer. The file size is somewhere around 450 megabytes, and your printer goes, and your computer goes,
There it is.
yeah.
Do those run on a
Okay,
DVD
we
player
don't-
or only on a computer?
Now, didn't you say though that if you had that
The
airport
QuickTime's
one,
not
you don't
included on the
get to
disc.
share?
Oh, okay.
Okay, if you have a printer plugged into your airport, by definition, it's being shared. You're saying this is a common resource, anybody should be able
No, I
to
mean,
print it
you put
to it
more
if they're on my
One
network.
of that is on
But in
the
order to
DVD.
set it up, you also have to do some things on the airport router. You have to turn
It would be on
printer
click
sharing on.
It would be on click on share.
Right. Well, not on your computer, it'd be when you're talking to the Airport Extreme router, using the administration program for that, you would be saying, turn on USB printing. I have a printer associated with this router. Okay. All right, so does that pretty much give you an idea, Ron, about what you need to do in terms of, okay, you probably already done this.
So the only problem I have is elsewhere. That's how to get rid of that automatically resetting.
With legacy
Got its own
printers,
built-in flash too.
this sounds so lame, but sometimes it's easier if you still got a Mac OS or a laptop.
I know
And
they
you
want
use
to see it.
HP printer utility running under Mac OS 9, and you can turn on and off whether a printer is going to do static or dynamic.
Can cups do that?
If it's a zero comp device, yes. If it isn't, well, let me think.
Many printers too have a web page built into them.
Yeah, well, that was, I was going to show that.
DOS, okay.
You're better off going to your front panel controls and putting in the IP address manually.
Well, that's where I'm ignorant, I've stumbled on it, gotten it done, but I don't know what I did.
Can you make
I
another
found a Laser Writer
picture
5
from that,
manual
like that?
where
Can you
they've
make
got
another picture?
how you do it, and you don't have the manual, right?
I
You
may,
can't make a frame, okay.
Anyway, I've got it in electronic form, I'll
Just
send
take
it
and
to
put
you.
it on your computer and then do that.
Yes,
You made a comment that not all printers are networked.
At least they make it take
not
some,
all
right?
printers are network printers. Correct.
Even if it's into, say, an iMac.
If it's let's say it's what I call a tethered printer,
Mhm.
it's physically connected just to that particular computer.
Right.
If you want it to be available to other people, you would click that, share this printer on the network.
And I can do that from even for a PC. If the PC is connected, that computer is connected wirelessly.
Wireless printers, that's another whole deal. Wireless printer, it's got its own radio receiver transmitter.
Well, that's if it's by itself, but if it's connected into an iMac, which is connected onto my network wirelessly.
Ah, okay.
So, can I print now from a PC to another location in the
Can,
house?
but you have the problem of getting the PC properly configured to know where that printer is.
Even if it has,
And what you'll be doing is you'll be putting in a URL for your local computer, so it sends the print job to that computer. That computer then says, oh, that's right, I'm printer sharing, and I really meant to be rendering this iMovie movie, but I'm gonna do the printing sharing with priority instead, and then it does its thing. The reason why I don't like to share most tethered printers is because they're inkjets. Inkjets are damn expensive to run. Okay, You would not believe what they charge for that ink. If you've got a network printer, typically it's a laser, it's a xerographic printer. They're much less expensive to run. Even the color ones are less expensive to run than an inkjet. I know that sounds crazy, but it's true. Yes, Viv?
Computer reports said that laser printers were not as good for photos and color as the inkjet. Is
That
wrong?
was true at one point. I would say, I would put a Xerox phaser up against the best inkjet Epson ever made.
A what, a
A
Xerox?
Xerox phaser,
Phaser.
yeah, P-H-A-S-E-R.
If you look on his screen there, he's got a Xerox.
No, I don't, my wife does for her marketing videos. And that's, it's a laser and it's color and it's got these little bitty, really convenient cartridges to put in. Don't think about the old Apple color laser writers with the huge cartridges and they rotate and all that. And there's always toner all over.
I have a question, the next step.
Yeah.
Okay, your Xerox phaser has an IP address?
Oh, that's a Bonjour printer. Let me show you how those work. That's
Well, okay, let me rephrase the question. If your Xerox phaser had an IP address,
yeah.
is that reachable by anyone? Could I be at my house, and if you gave me your IP address, could I send a print job through my internet to print on your phaser at your house?
I would have to go into my router and open up some stuff in there to allow that to happen.
There's security that prevents that from normally happening?
Yes,
And just routability.
yeah. But you could go in, and UTP, there's ways to do it. Okay, so anyway, at this point you should be going, oh my God, how do these printers ever work? This is so complicated. Okay, now remember, this is for the old stuff. This is like the stuff I've got in my basement. All right? I'm not wrong, don't get upset now. We have the same flaw, personality flaw. We like to keep the old stuff and we keep it more working. I want to show you what the new printers are like for configuration. What's called a Bonjour printer. In a Bonjour printer, and I did some screenshots here. There we go. In a Bonjour printer, do full screen here. Let's say you wanted to administer a printer, a Bonjour printer. Well, let me back up. Let's do configuration. Bonjour printer, let me close these guys out real quick. Hey, don't do that. Stop. Thank you. Bonjour printers, the real protocol is called ZeroComp. It was invented by HP. It works for a whole bunch of different devices. This Xerox phaser, that is a ZeroComp printer. If I wanted to create one like that, let's say I didn't have that Xerox phaser, I didn't have the thing on, I'd click on default protocol, and in here, it would just show up. And then I'd click on it, and it would come up with some information about it, and I could pick what particular protocol, if I had a special protocol I wanted to be using on it. And I'd click the add button and I'd be done. So ZeroComp means zero configuration. All the new printers, everything made from about, network printers made since 2000, 2001 are ZeroComp printers. If I wanted to administer a ZeroComp printer, that again is sort of neat. Remember when we were looking at cups in a website? Let's do a zoom here. Hello, thank you. Zoom. Oh, I'll do it in quick look. It's easier. Full screen. Okay. To administer for a Xerocom printer, it's got a web server built into it. So I would go to a web browser like Safari. I'd click on my bookmarks, and in here we'd have a thing called Bonjour. I'd click on that, and in here it would show me that Xerox phaser, and that's the Bonjour address. So I'd select it and double click on it. Let me go to the next one. So here again, we're still in the web browser. So I'd select this here, click on it. And eventually I would get to this. The whole website that's being vended from that printer. Internet services, it gives me the phaser, it gives me the model number, it tells me here that the cyan toner cartridge is near end of life, power saver's on, printer will wake up, all this status. Scroll down, and these buttons, it's just like being on a website. When I press one of those buttons, I get more web pages with more information. This phaser even has a hydrometer in it. It'll tell me what the humidity is, where it is. These things are meant for remote administration, so that somebody in San Francisco can be checking whether a printer's working that's in New York City, or Dayton, Ohio, or Miami's firm.
And how did you do this web page thing again?
Well, if I was using Safari, if I'm in Safari, let's get Safari up. Okay, here's the Safari interface. You click on the thing up here that looks like an open book, bookmarks, like that. It comes up with this interface, and typically most people are looking at their bookmark bars. You know, they're using this to administer their bookmarks or their address books. But Bonjour is another thing that is discovered through this, and any Bonjour printers that are available will show up.
Bonjour will automatically show up in your bookmark.
In Safari. It's not in your bookmarks, it's in the collections sidebar of the bookmark manager.
What about Firefox?
Firefox, then you would type in the IP address of that printer. So you'd have to print out what's the IP address, and then you would use IP to talk to it rather
So
than
it's simpler to use Safari for this purpose than it is Firefox.
Well, this is because Apple has this whole thing about, you know, zero comp with the cell phones and everything else. This is how they want the enterprise people to be doing. Right. Bonjour is just a marketing term. This is zero configuration technology invented by HP, used by Sun, Brother, Canon, Ricoh, etc. Now, one more thing here. Tap that. Here we go. Quick look, full screen. So in here, this is that same website for that printer. I clicked on status, and then I've got more tabs. Status, jobs, properties, support. It's doing a combination of talking to the printer and talking to cups on my local machine. So here it's telling me, oh, you've got a manual feed slot, and you've got this, and you've got about 250 sheets of paper in that one, and the other one's empty. What your page count is. It'll tell you, where it is, what the status is, the IP address of it, 10.0.1.33. My network, if it's got the same two numbers in the last octet, 11, 22, 33, 44, it's a printer. Okay, that just, it's not a best practice, it's just Bill that day said, I need to be able to distinguish between what's going to be a static and a dynamic. Anything that's 200, so 10.0.1, 200 to 220, I let the DHCP server vend those addresses out to computers. Okay, but the printers all have a static address that doesn't change.
So you basically use Bonjour to configure
Yeah.
that printer?
Yeah.
So it went out and found
Right.
it automatically, as
So-
long as it was
Right,
on.
once I've, actually, I don't even have to have the printer queue set up yet. I can be talking to it just using the web browser. I won't be able to print to it unless I set up the printer queue, but it's, just click, boom, it does it. I'm like, okay. The other thing to keep in mind is in Snow Leopard, once you have printers configured, so your print queue set up on your computer, when you do a software update, it will go to the Apple website and see if there are new drivers for those printers. That's something it didn't used to do. And they added that to software update because the printer manufacturers were very slow off the mark with Snow Leopard. It's like they were so used to working with Microsoft where, Vista's coming, Vista's coming, Vista's coming, and then all of a sudden it's here and everybody goes, it's terrible, it's terrible, it's terrible. System 7's coming. Apple comes out typically every 18 to 24 months with a newer version of the operating system. And sometimes it requires new printer drivers. Whose responsibility is that? The manufacturer that makes the printer. Did they step up to the plate? No, because they're all being squozed. These are large corporations and they're squeezing everybody down and everybody's doing 3 and 4 jobs and nobody has really time to do it right. So Apple picked up the ball. They sent their engineers out to the main printer manufacturers and they said, look, we'll keep the latest drivers up on our website and we'll make it part of our software update. Okay, now, that's printer configuration. Let's talk about other ways to troubleshoot
Before you leave configuration,
print drives.
kind of a side question
Sure.
here. If you've got older printers like a LaserJet 5MP, and in the printer driver list, you see that driver, and then you see a Guten print. Would you rather, is the Guten print more updated than?
I've had really good luck with Guten print. It used to be called GIMP print drivers. These are free open sourceware.
They're a little more current than?
They're for devices I've never heard of.
Yeah. For example, I got a 5MP, and it shows a 5MP LaserJet, and then it shows a 5MP Guten print,
Yeah.
version 5, whatever.
What I will usually do is I'll try the manufacturer's driver first and see what sort of results I get with it. If it doesn't quite meet or exceed my expectations, then I'll try a Guten print driver. The reason why those are out there is you have all these folks doing Linux. Printer manufacturers ignore Linux. They don't make drivers for anything for Linux, so you have to make your own. So there's this large community. It's probably 45, 50,000 people out there, printer gurus, that are tweaking and making their own printer drivers for their Linux boxes. Well, those, Linux has some there's some close ties between mainline Unix and Linux. Typically, those GIMP print drivers or Guten print drivers give you a pretty good result, especially if it's, like, where in the world was this printer made? I've seen printers come in from the Soviet bloc. This is when I was still working at the paper, and it's like they got a really good deal on these things. And it's a combination, fax machine, printer, missile launcher, whatever, and they were made in Yugoslavia.
Made out of concrete.
Well, they were big. The printer was the length of this table, okay? And it was, what normally would take up a little space on your desk was this huge thing, with like 12 paper trays, and there was a lock on everything, because, you don't want people to be able to put paper into the printer. Guten print drivers would work with that thing. Okay, so again, there's some, experimentation that you want to do. Especially if you're talking about specialty printers, wide format plotters, your specialty label printers, your Dynamo, your Brother, all those folks. Okay? Yes, Rick.
A little bit ago, you mentioned the photo quality of laser printers, and it's very good or whatever.
Well, it can.
Is the problem of toner transfer been solved, or is that still a problem?
It hasn't been solved in the same way the problem with using inkjet inks and chokes and spreads hasn't been solved. I mean, there's just some things that if you don't have control over the physical media that it's going onto, it's like, just take any sort of paper and put it in an inkjet printer and they're expecting to get, photographic quality. No, you gotta control the media you're putting in addition to the ink that you're using, in addition to, are you using color sync, it gets complicated, I'll just put it that way.
One of our members had to leave, and they were commenting, they just got a new HP, and they were having a lot of trouble jamming and stuff. I know it's very simple, something they weren't aware of is check quality of the way your paper, a lot has to do with that. If you have real cheap paper, real lightweight, and you're gonna have problems.
And there's also the environmentals.
Right.
What's the humidity? I think, just in the same way that people put servers, above the water heater, next to the coffee maker, in the supply closet, and then they wonder why the server's offline because the cleaning crew came in that night and they unplugged because they needed to plug in their vacuums. You'll see high-end printers putting their similar stations. Yes, Scott?
I understand you need to avoid recycling.
It depends on the mechanicals of the printer. Most of the ones that are made nowadays, your HPs and such, handle recycled paper no problem. In the same way, it used to be with your laser copier paper, there's a good side and a bad side. Now they're mill finishing so that both sides are, because they discovered the customer doesn't look at the packet of paper and say, oh, this side up. Plus the other thing is, you've got this ream of paper, you're putting it into the printer. Well, there's this wonderful little thing. If it's a laser, typically you put it in the tray with the print side up. In inkjet, you put it the print side down. I'm sure it's in the manual somewhere, but I've never been able to find that. So it's easier for the paper manufacturers to just mill both sides. Yes, sir?
I have an old 930C HP, 04 or
930 or 932?
930C.
Okay.
And all of a sudden, and I haven't changed my computer at all of a sudden it wasn't printed to the last page. Where do I look?
Typically, it's going to be something in cups that's gone bad. In cups, Comics Union. What I would do is deinstall the printer and reinstall the printer. Okay. What's happening is your computer's sending the information, but somehow, as it gets into the printing system, it's dropping bits. So it's sort of like you're driving down the road, listening to the Beach Boys, you drive through the tunnel, but your head still hears the music, if you've listened to it long enough. But it's not really coming out of the speaker. Well, that's what happens with printers. You're sending a data flow to the printer, all of a sudden you get a dropout, for whatever reason. Now, I've got 2 minutes, I gotta do this real quick, and that is some very common things to look at when something doesn't print. First thing you wanna do is look at the printer queue to see if it's turned on or off. On my computer, I've got it set so that my printer queues, I'm gonna close, oh, there we go. Go in, close. I've got them where they always are in my dock. So here's a printer queue. See where you see the stop sign? If you see that, that means the printer queue is on. If it's green, that means it's turned off. Okay? If it's red, that means the valve is open, the print jobs will go through. If it sees green up here, where it says hold, then it means that the valve is shut and the jobs aren't going to go through. And typically the jobs will be showing up as a list in here. So that's the first thing you'll look for. The second thing is, maybe this document won't print from that particular program. Try printing to the printer from some other program. Usually I use TextEdit. Just put a couple words in a TextEdit document, try and print to the printer. If it's not printing from 2 different programs, one where it's just real simple text and one where maybe it's a photo, then you know that there's some sort of communication problem between the computer and the printer. that's when you start doing the other ones. You make sure the printer's plugged in, you make sure the printer's turned on, you make sure the USB cables are in. Typically, it's the visiting relative who just wanted to print one thing from their laptop and they unplugged your printer and plugged it into theirs and then they plugged it back into the one. Ernest is shaking his head. He's been there. I have too. 2 hours I spent trying to troubleshoot it before I realized the printer wasn't plugged into the computer anymore. Another thing to try, okay? Sometimes the plumbing problem has to do with your user account. Log out of your user account, log into the other account you should have on your computer. You should always have one for test purposes. And try printing from that. If it prints to the printer, but when you're logged in as yourself it doesn't, that means it's a plumbing problem, and then you start diagnosing what's going on with pumps. Typically you reset the printing system by deinstalling a printer, a print queue, and recreating it. Okay, sorry, I just had to get all that stuff out, because those are the more common problems. Okay.
We have HP all in one, whatever. And sometimes
All in one?
I don't know, we tell us sometimes, stop the job. You know, we'll tell it 2 or 3 times. Next time we print something, you know, either kicks out a blank page or part of that job, which we were told it to stop and discontinue the whole thing.
That's typically not a printer system problem. It's that they've crammed all this stuff into this piece of plastic, and it doesn't have very smart electronics in it, and it doesn't have a whole lot of memory in it. And then, yeah.
When you say stop the job, are you pushing the stop button?
No,
It just retains the job, it retains it.
Yeah, but you, actually, the buffer will get you on there because it's shoved several megabytes down the printer, and you may stop it there, but it's already got
No, it's
it.
already printed the item, and then you turn it off, you know, and you come back, you print something else, and it'll print that same
Yeah.
one. I found you just go back and
It's
have to
clearing
delete
its
the job.
memory. It's still got some residual bits there that it says, oh, and it must be something that's supposed to go to a piece of paper. But that's not as frustrating as when you've actually got stuff and it comes out blank. One of the other things you can do, if you have a print job, let's say your other programs print to the printer, so you know it's not a plumbing problem. It's some configuration problem with that particular application. One way to sort of get around that, okay, I'm going to just launch on a PDF. Okay, let's say when I go to print this, file, print, okay, let's say it doesn't print. Instead, what you do is select PDF and have it do a, save it as a PDF and then print the PDF. Sometimes that'll get you there. Another one would be, let me think, there was another one that was in my head. This is something I usually do in pagination programs or Microsoft Office programs. I'll open up a second blank document. I'll copy, I'll do select everything in the one document, copy it to the clipboard, paste it into the other document, and then try and print from that new document. Sometimes that'll get you fixed right away. If that doesn't, then you do the copy the first third of the document, first third, and try and print. Because sometimes it's a font issue. Yes, Tom?
Sometimes you have to turn the printer on before you print.
That's true. And sometimes with network printers, if you just unplug them from the network and plug them back in, it'll resolve the problem. I've seen that with the, not just the Apple AirPorts, but Linksys, anything that's got the USB printer port on it, or sometimes just unplugging it, you pull the USB cable out, plug the USB cable back in, turn the printer back on, and then off and on. And I don't know what that one is.
Bill?
Okay.
Bill?
Go up front and then we'll go back to it.
Okay. I have a USB printer. Works fine when it's plugged into the desktop directly. But if I plug it into the Airport Extreme USB port, I can try to set up with Airport Utility to recognize that printer, doesn't work. Why does
Okay,
it
are you
matter?
using the same USB cable on both? Yeah. Okay. What I would do is deinstall it in the Airport Extreme and then reinstall it on there. Make sure the printer's on and you're doing the configuration. There's, some of this stuff is network stuff and it's, you know, it works, but
Because I have an inkjet that works just fine, but the laser printer doesn't work that way.
these are the intermittents. It's like when you go to the garage mechanic and you hear the rattle. As soon as you get the car to the mechanic, yeah. As soon as you got it back, you hear the rattle again. You put the mechanic with you in the car, which really costs big bucks, they hear the rattle. There are some things that are just not meant to do. Okay, with that said, we'll go to the back and then we're done.
3 quickies. If I print labels, I can print right up to the edge. If I go to Excel, for example, I can set the margin to 0, I cannot print to the edge. Any idea what's...
Yeah, it's how the programmers decided you should print stuff in Excel. So the printer setup is overridden by the default setup in the Excel
So
program.
Excel still maintains some type of margin whether I want it or not. Excel is still going to maintain a margin whether I want it or
Yeah.
not. How does, periodically, if something goes wrong, the print queue shows up. How do you get the print queue to show up and stay there?
To say,
Print queue, how do you put it in the dock?
do a print job, and while it's printing, do a right click on it, go to options and say, well, in this case it's in the dock, so it's going to say remove from the dock, it would say keep in dock.
So just, while it's printing, just do a...
Right. It's just like any program. You know, if you want it to stay in the dock, you select it, right click on it, and tell it to stay in the dock even when you're not running.
Some things say you can't print that are coming off the internet. And you can't even print it to the PDF.
Typically, they're blocking the content down, so they can't steal their content.
Behave yourself.
So once you got the screenshot, then you gotta run it through an OCR.
Yeah.
The video,
Yeah.
how do you get around that?
You do the screenshot, you do the OCR, that's how you get around it.
Bill,
Okay.
difference between PCL drivers and postal drivers, like we did for
PCL are